I appreciate that.
Alrighty.
Alright, that's going in the show.
3, 2, 1. Kind of weak.
It was pretty weak this time. Welcome to episode 9 of the season of the Space Trail Show, the greatest show in the galaxy. And this is kind of, the fun little, just easy one before the grand finale. So.
Well, it's also after Come and See, so giving us a little breather,
giving
us a little emotional relaxation for real after that one.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So what's the movie going to be today?
So the movie today is Osuofia in London. It's the Nollywood movie that we were talking about last week. Maybe some of you guys don't know, but Nollywood is the second largest film industry in the world as far as movies made. I know I told you that before, but for the random people that might be watching this, it's a lot bigger than people give it credit for, and I think it's not very talked about from what I know.
Yeah, and so it's exciting exploring this different type of budget and subject matter that was in this movie and in the whole industry as a whole, because honestly I'm not even sure if I've seen any Nollywood films ever in my life, and so
I have not either.
And so even like Indian movies or like Bollywood films I've seen quite a few of, and they get recognition, like Three Idiots and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the second biggest one being Nollywood having like zero credit or anything like that was interesting to explore.
Yeah, and it's a very different movie from what I'm used to, for sure. It's nice to see like a different style of movie. Like I haven't seen like a totally different genre or like idea or like culture put to film in a while, and this is an example of that. So in that way, it was pretty impactful for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo that a little bit and say that, this film exactly wasn't exactly like the best film in the world or even original in any type. For real, it was just like Coming to America, except like a little bit more authentic in my opinion.
Yeah, it was very. I'm sure we'll get to how authentic it is.
Yeah,
truly. But sorry, what were you saying?
Well, I'm just pinpointing the fact that it's the way that the culture is captured that led to like a different experience, or else it would have definitely. I'm pretty 100% sure that Coming to America what's the first one called?
That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
So Coming to America is literally just coming to America?
Is that what it does?
I think the second movie is called Coming to America. So I thought that the first one would be titled differently, but
no, I don't think so. That's funny. That's actually kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that one came first. But yeah, essentially it's that movie, but I think so much more hilarious.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of hilarious things going on here. There's I guess I want to get right to the authenticity, because there's a lot of times where it feels like they have the Osuofia. He's like acting, and then like he's acting to some random white person that they just found on the street, and like that kind of feeling is like it's inescapable. It's like they don't do very much like that in films,
And I think that also makes it seem a lot more relatable to a degree. I mean, I don't want to say that this film is relatable, but like in Coming to America, there's this gleam in the character, this type of almost uncriticizable hopefulness and happiness So it's just this movie about this guy who's in awe about everything, but he's not necessarily a flawed person. Or actually, he's pretty perfect. Not gonna lie.
Well, yeah, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's not an original story, like you say, yeah, but I think it's the main performers. Like he's got some kind of charisma to him.
Yeah,
It's
for
like,
sure.
it's
Uh-huh.
funny to watch, even when he's being like wildly inappropriate.
Yeah. And so this guy, he's got a little dated ideas or opinions or just like different cultural but still not correct or not like
It's very
equality.
sexist.
Yeah.
Like very sexist.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's weird though because it's like it's a different culture and like different kind of traditions, so it's
Mhm.
hard to like separate those two things from each other, and like it makes it slightly more complicated of like a question to ask, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And watching him deal with like people of a different culture is a lot more like genuine to see like this flawed person coming to this I would even say equally flawed like culture. It's just like we are a little bit more progressive in certain areas, you know? I mean the
Yeah,
whole movie is just watching these two civilized or like city people or like the white man's country type people that are just like trying to scam everybody out of their stuff. And yeah, this guy's a little sexist, but like
yeah, they're not trying to steal millions.
yeah, I mean, nobody's perfect, and no culture is like better than another, you know. Um,
But yeah, and I feel like in that way the movie was very smart actually in a way that I didn't expect, and in a way that almost makes me like a little more forgiving of what's going on, even though like I mean I'm a guy, so clearly that's like
yeah.
something too. But
Mhm.
I think it leads me to forgive it a little bit more because it's like it's a commentary on both of their cultures and like their differences, and I think that was one of the best parts about it.
Yeah. No, there is definitely a lot to critique about these opinions, but there is a sense of deep rooted stuff that is outside of the control of maybe like one individual. You know, there's just like things that you find are normal sometimes, which I'm not saying is good that you find it normal, but in different places, people find different things normal. You know, and so I think that in this movie they used it. You know, in some sense, it was definitely cringe and definitely like grit your teeth type stuff. But in other ways, I thought that it was brilliant in the way of refreshing comedy. And um, I'm not exactly sure if it's simply refreshing because I don't experience it enough. And then if I were to watch more Nollywood films, I would feel less about this movie. But regardless, I felt like the way that he describes and uses emotions as in his voice and in his manner of speaking were just wildly entertaining and wildly funny to watch. Especially, the epitomized scene that encapsulates that feeling is when he says like, open your mouth when you speak to me, or like say your name and like open your mouth and say your name to me. And I'm like, yeah, I guess there's like this type of held backness that like people speak during in like more modern society or something like that they don't express as much and that kind of stuff. And the way that he does and he moves his arm and like he like accentuates his body a lot was a lot of the humor that I felt was really tasteful and refreshing.
Yeah, and I think this movie's a lot smarter than some people would give it credit for because it's got such a low budget and it's like it's not like technically like as far as like the literal technical things, not story technicalities,
Yeah.
but like camera work and audio, they were complete trash. Like, but in a way that like added to the film.
Yeah.
It really added like some sort of authenticity. So it was actually I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like an intercut in more recent comedies. Now, like let's say Eric Andre's last film, Bad Trip.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know how it's like prank versus like stage storytelling. So it's like he moves to another prank, but he kind of like ties it together by like having this sort of like story portion, and then it's like real people and then story portion.
Yeah.
So whenever like the audio goes into like absolute shithole, you feel like it's like, oh yeah, it's because these people actually just went out and like he has like a mic on his shirt and he's like interacting with real people, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when the audio goes back into normal audio, it's like, okay, well this is gonna further increase this or further move forward the narrative, and stuff like that. So it's almost like a Bad Trip, that type of comedy slash like Jackass slash like real life event type stuff that is just a little bit more telegraphed. But I wouldn't even say that in a bad way, you know? It's almost jarring and juxtaposed and hilarious whenever he's just like screaming on the bus and you're just getting ear raped by like the muffled like
like the girl screaming behind him too. Like
and it just maxes out the audio. Like
and there's something about people's genuine real reactions to these things happening that's funnier than any line like you could just come up with. You know? It adds like that kind of almost like Jackass effect. Like the kind of like this is really happening but it's like kind of fake real. But I don't know, that just added so much for me. It's not something I see very often in comedy, so that added a lot for sure.
That makes me think of like what type of things that we accredit to low budget stuff that is simply because our expectations are that it's low budget. So we're like, oh shit, the audio is like really funky. I guess that's really hilarious. But if we were like going in, like if I went into the theater and then I watched this movie, I feel like I would have like a very different opinion on the audio and the audio mixing, you know?
I might even have a better opinion of it. It'd be like the way that you want your ears to bleed listening to metal.
You know, honestly, I guess that was a bad example because if I went in there and they just like flamed the fuck out of me, they just like headphone users or like
like can you imagine like the Dolby Theater with like that kind of audio crackles?
That would definitely be an experience. But yeah, you understand what I'm saying, right?
Totally. I totally get what you're saying because I mean it's clearly it has a very low budget, but it's like it's kind of exciting to see because like this industry, like a lot of their budgets, like their average budget I heard was like below $100,000, somewhere around there. And it's nice it gets like some sort of like realism and the fact that so many people are able to make all of these cheaper films. It means like there's a very large group of people that are trying to make films, like more filmmakers there than here, and I'm like, damn, it's kind of like a whole world I want to explore.
I honestly think it's like a budding industry, and that's what kind of makes it. The way that this is like one of the highest grossing of like Nollywood kind of gives, like, if I were to watch that, at least in my current state right now, it almost inspires me to make movies because I'm like, all right, this is pretty like, you know, good, but also pretty low budget. Almost like Hollywood is their level of budget and type stuff is almost like gatekeeping, like new filmmakers, because they're like, oh shit, I can't like invest in like VFX and stuff like that.
Definitely.
And so that growing potential and that inspiration in Hollywood probably is the reason why it's elevated it to like the second biggest like producing film industry. You know, if I watched that movie, I'd be like, fuck man, I want to grab my camera and go out and make something like that, man. Like like not that it's like so like amateur or anything like that, but it's just like I can attempt that, you know. I can craft something that would be as like exciting and funny as that. It's a good, like, it's inspiration to, like, you know, not everyone has a million or millions of dollars to make a movie. Like, that's not very often, but like if you really really wanted to, like, you could save $10,000 and just do one yourself. And that's like the kind of inspiration that like
that takes a lot of work. You know, it's like a very inspiring kind of film process, even.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about a little bit more of the most hilarious parts.
Okay. Okay. What you got?
I loved the part where the the scammer dude, like the lawyer person, kind of like has
In the mirror?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been waiting to bring this up. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because I feel like there's some times where the self-awareness almost like bumps the film up like another notch, you know? And I'm not even sure if it was intended or anything, because it only really happens in this moment. But the fact that there is some sort of reflection of this this lawyer or whatever, and he also has an accent that he suppresses. That it's almost like they're kind of like seeping in that political commentary, just briefly, tease you a little.
Well, with that one, and like even with his whole character, and not gonna lie,
yeah.
the actor, he kind of eats that stuff up. He's really good.
Yeah,
he's that.
He was
Your
good.
scene was like it was kind of shocking. I was like, whoa, this is like very dramatic.
Yeah.
Like, this is an exciting performance, because it was hilarious too. He like looks in the mirror and he's like, why are you guys laughing at me? Or something.
And we had just finished laughing at this scene, so it like catches you out. You're like,
it's perfect, dude.
He's like talking to himself, but it really felt like he was talking to me for a second there, and I'm like, damn, man.
Yeah, it's easily my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah,
like not even close.
And I just love like the ending too.
Oh yeah, what was he doing the ending again?
No, not him. Just like the whole.
Oh, the ending.
Yeah, just the whole ending, man.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I gotta find out if this is like some sort of like trilogy or like
there's more.
There's more.
Yeah, there's Osuofia in London, or there's like I know there's a second one on Netflix. They have like Osuofia 2.
Damn, is this Bahubali?
Maybe. I'd watch another one. I'd totally watch another one. I don't think we can get anyone else to watch it though.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, like, only like just the boldness. I don't know if this is like a regular practice in Hollywood again, but again, it comes back to that type of is it just novelty or is it like genius? You know?
Or yeah, like how. Because we don't know what other Hollywood movies have, so we could just be being naive. You know?
Yeah. But my point is just like generally, even if there is like a part 2 or a part 3 or trilogy or anything like that, they have like a concise ending point. Like there's more to the story, but this is like an arc that's finished. You know, they're literally chasing each other down the highway, and then it just ends.
There are so many questions to be answered. Like she told them that she tore up their contract. I never saw it get torn up. She's fucking lying to him,
bro. Why'd she split so easy? She's like, yeah, I'll marry you. I'll go to Africa, and I'm like.
That was really fucking funny, though. That was like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
And he kept asking, he's like, will you? She's like, yeah. And he's like, ah.
Oh, yeah. There's so many things. Like when he got seduced by, like, the worst seducing job ever.
Yeah.
Fucking prank.
Bro, any sane person would have been like, this is sus. And he's like, man.
Yeah, he was so funny.
But other ones, I actually loved the whole sequence outside of London, right?
Oh yeah, the actual stuff.
Yeah, I honestly preferred that portion more because it really did emulate like coming to America once he got there. And although I love the acting, I thought he was great and he really sold it for me. Mm-hmm. The whole depiction and situations were almost a little like, I wouldn't say repetitive, but just like unemotionally connected to me, I guess. But the parts in his hometown were awesome, and I loved watching the dynamic between everyone, learning about like their level of understanding, where he watches his, I guess, brother or brother-in-law come, and he's like, oh yeah, I guess, who is he talking to? I guess he's talking to us. He's like, this guy always eats my shit, bro. Like, I gotta fucking hide my shit from him.
Oh yeah, that was so funny, dude. Oh yeah. That's just oh yeah. The kind of meta humor they have is like it's and also I have never seen Coming to America. So
Oh really?
I've never seen
What
it, so I didn't think about that in the London stuff. But I do agree. Like I was a little worried about picking this movie for Nollywood because it's like half of it's in London, so it's like not even as much Nigeria, But I think this film did a good job of
balancing.
doing that, and it was nice to see the Nigeria scenes. And I agree with you. I thought they were better as well. Like when he was getting like the message that like the money was like he was gonna get a bunch of money from his brother. It's just like his shift of perspective and like making his daughters cry violently.
He just keels over. He's like, "This for real?" And he's just like, and he's like, my brother. He's like, fuck this guy. I've never seen him in my life. Goddamn, I wish he died. I don't give a shit, bro. And he's like, guys cry. My brother just died. Bro, start jumping around, man. This shit's sad, man.
Oh yeah, he just keeps like, hey, you guys just stop crying. Keep crying. Come on. And like the fact that they would just like be so loud about it too, just so egregiously sad. It was so good.
Oh man. And we got to hear the iconic lines, even though it wasn't from that movie. Yeah. He gets hassled for not paying something back or something like that. He gets this gun and he's like, "Why are you running?" And it was so hype, man. There were just so many hype moments in this movie. There are definitely some lulls, but it would come back to some hype moments, man.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, there's just like, and his kind of talk with the elders was so funny. He was like, this guy took all of our money and just got a bunch of new clothes. I'm paying it though. He's just like, I'm paying it. Yeah. And then he just roasts the fuck out of this guy. Just roast everyone's like, but I'm paying it though.
Oh man. And then he gets word of being rich, and so everyone's like worshiping or like praising him, and he's like, I'm gonna walk like a white man, bro. This is how I walk up here, bro. Just like flaming the fuck, but also like that's hilarious, man.
Oh yeah, and the way he talked to the British people too was always just so funny. He's like to the limo drivers, like, keep it open. I wanna do this with style.
So I think it really put you into the perspective of him, and I think that's a little bit better than, or an aspect that is better than Coming to America. Coming to America kind of like balances the two. It almost makes you kind of appreciate. It's like, a movie about like appreciating things or something like that. But this one, he's like, we would be put in his perspective, and they would just like the audio of the limo driver is kind of like muffled. I couldn't really understand what he was saying, and that guy was like, "Open up your mouth, bro. Speak to me, bro." And I'm like,
he just starts getting super peeved at them.
Yeah, he's like, I can't understand what you're saying, bro. You gotta know how to speak it at all, or something like that. And I'm like, honestly, like, I mean, it's not that I am like unfamiliar with that. Well, yeah, that's how we speak. But like, they just kind of like made it a little bit hard to understand. And then when he exclaims, it's like you like relate to that,
Yeah, well, and like all of the misunderstandings he has lead to such just strange events, like going hunting for a pigeon in the middle of the night. It's such like that's a funny scenario,
Yeah, and
like, I mean, the pigeons don't. I mean, no one really does anything with the pigeons. I don't know.
Yeah, and it just totally makes sense as like a train of thought. You try to go in a fucking McDonald's and you're like, "Hey, I want my fucking food," and they're like, "We don't accept that money," and you're well, all right, I guess I'll go hunting, and then you get arrested for going hunting. Like, what the fuck, man?
It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I worked to get this. It's like, it's funny too because we spend all that time in Nigeria, so we understand all of his social conceptions. And then it always makes sense when he does the decision he does, because that's just what he would do. It's never like, it's not like making fun of him, or like, it's not like, hey, this guy's a fool, he's in our social customs. It's always like, the white people are like the idiots
Yeah.
usually, you know?
And that kind of makes me think, like, in a sense of necessity and like social construct, like what is the issue there too? Like, if you were actually homeless and not like kind of weird like this guy, not well, he's weird because he's out of his nature, but like,
Yeah.
if you're homeless and you're like, oh man, I've got no money for food, and you start like hunting for some pigeons and you get arrested, like, but why? I was just trying to survive, man.
Yeah,
Like, these like I guess public disturbance is the way that they like viewed it. But why? I mean, people hunt all like. I guess, yeah. Anyways, that's just like.
But you know, you can totally see that happening in real life. If someone's
Yeah.
hunting a pigeon,
You get
there's a
arrested.
bunch of
Yeah.
like people that would be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, but I mean, that's
Even
just
I
a
would
natural
look off
thing.
and I'd be like, interesting.
Yeah, I'd be
Because it doesn't
interested,
happen
like,
much,
Yeah,
you know,
but
around
why?
here.
But why? You know.
I don't know.
But I think that leads to one of the most hilarious, like objectively. Now there's like the meta aspect of the mirror,
Uh-huh.
but the most objectively hilarious part of this movie was when he just like pulls out his like wand and he just like zaps a dude.
Oh, yeah.
I was like expecting it to come back again, but it never does. He's like, this is the charm that I got from my parents or my dad or some shit like that, and he just zaps a dude. Like, he just fucking zaps his shoulder. Like,
Yeah, it
what?
causes such like a strife too. They're like, oh, Wow. Yeah,
Like, what
I
was
love
that?
that part. That was cool.
That was so weird.
That was cool. Yeah.
Oh man, he's so funny, man.
Honestly, it's hard like to talk about this movie without just being like, you know, this scene is so funny. This scene is so because it's like it's a pure comedy. You know, it's like it's really all about being funny, and it does have a lot of great social commentary too.
That's
actually.
weird about that.
But it's like it never once bogs down the humor. That's
Yeah.
for fucking sure.
Yeah.
They do it at this. They always do it at the same time.
I think it's almost just like the social commentary is like something that you can see just because the humor was like built in the way that it is, you know? It's almost not, I wouldn't even say that it's not like thought about because I don't want to like put down like the writer and stuff like that, but it feels like definitely zero in the priority list. You know, it just happened to like go kind of, and I think that humor ties in a lot with like social commentary at the same time, you know? And so it's almost like, you know, going to a comedy show and like they're just trying to be funny, really. But in fact, like comedians are the philosophers of our days almost, you know?
And it's kind of like, you know, they rule it in such an objective lens, like how the movie goes. It's like, it's part of making a comedy, but it's also like, they clearly know so much about like the social like things that are going on because they need to have comedy as smart as they do.
Yeah.
So it's like always in the background. It's never on their priority list, but it's always very easy to tell that they're very aware of these social conventions and like these kind of things that they're playing with. Which
Yeah.
is like, I think if you're talking about a pure comedy, that's exactly what I want you to be, because I don't like comedy that doesn't acknowledge or like have any sort of message.
Oh, yes.
I think that's like a little bit weaker, but comedies that are very aware of the social message and they just like they play around that, but it's always completely a comedy, those still have meaning and they're still like very exciting and it's easy to talk about how funny they are.
Yeah. And that makes me really interested on learning more about like the director and the writer. I think it's a great film to ease into Nollywood, you know, because there's definitely a feeling that the director and writer understand the differences between the two cultures, which is why he's able to balance the humor between the two. You know, it wouldn't be as funny if the director was just as confused about London's culture and the people and what they think and other things like that. You know, he realizes that there's a difference and he puts Osuofia in those particular situations that could emphasize that the most, you know?
Yeah.
And so it makes me feel like the director is almost like a the teacher, like in that, you know, he kind of understands like what the customs and like, you know, you need a passport, like this looks legit, that type of stuff. But he also is connected to the hometown and everything like that, which makes me really interested to explore like a movie that is of a director that's fully like in Nollywood, you know, like fully never has gone out, and maybe I wouldn't even say doesn't understand, because I feel like there's some sort of realization in that sense, but is like fully in or about Nigeria and the cultures there and the humor that's specifically there, and not just like a juxtaposition of like cultures, you know?
Yeah, and there's like just a lot of interesting like African kind of filmmaking tendencies, or like the music and things like that that you don't see very often, except like from Africa. So I want to see more of those things because I don't see enough art from Africa in general, and stuff like African music, like the opening scene and kind of the opening animation thing that was like very pretty and like a really cool introduction. So stuff like that would be interesting to see, as far as like you were saying, a film fully in Nigeria. I think that would be a great step for next.
Yeah. And I think, speaking of the music and that kind of stuff, the whiplash that you get with the change of the soundtrack was hilarious.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very bombastic.
Yeah, even before like expressions change on actors' faces, the music will change. And I don't know. Again, it's with this this novelty aspect of things, is that like, oh, I feel like I can see myself getting really tired of this if it were to happen really often. But the fact that it doesn't, and the fact that we're watching the singular movie that does pull those things pretty well, I guess, was hilarious. And I think the question is just like, it makes me wonder if I would recommend other directors use that technique, because I want to say it is really funny to just change the tone of music really like abruptly, but I can also feel how that can be really, I guess, throws you out of it really easily if it like happens too often, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think this one did a good job with it, because my general philosophy with music and film is I don't like it to push me too hard what to think. I like to have music with the same level of subtlety that the film deserves.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it was perfect. I mean, because it was a comedy, and it was playing on that. It was like playing on that convention, like the idea, like when the music shifts so directly, and like Osuofia, he kind of shifts with it. He completely changes emotions so quickly, so it all fits in the same tone and the same idea.
Yeah, I think I definitely want to reiterate or like hone in on that, and I think it carries a lot on the main actors, like facial expressions, because again, it encapsulates his journey in the new world in a way that is unique, and like just like it is making it seem, or making us on his side whenever he says like, open up your mouth and speak, and that kind of stuff like that. It does the same with the music. His shift in emotion is so quick, it makes the music make sense, you know. And people go through life like that, it's not like something that is really unique or weird or even culturally different. There's times where my mood's like shifts in like one sentence, and if I had a soundtrack following my like thoughts, it would do the exact same thing. It would go from like peaceful music to like pensive tension.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of dramatic things that happen, like your brother, and it's like, I don't want to talk to my brother again. He's got millions of dollars.
Boom. Like,
I mean, would I not do the same thing?
It almost makes me, I wouldn't even say sad, just like envious of an unfiltered expression filled communication, you know? There's a lot of internal dialogue that happens whenever I speak to people, and a lot of filtering of emotions that these hilarious moments wouldn't be able to be accentuated, you know? It almost, in a sense, compares the two cultures, and, you know, when he says, open up your mouth and speak, that kind of stuff, you know? Like, if I were to react to every, like, half sentence that you gave me, like, we would be having this really back and forth type, like, climax, like, oh, I hate that guy, oh, he's got a lot of money, like, yeah, you know? And it's because whenever we sit back and we kind of, like, listen, and not that it's bad to listen, it's great to listen, but, like, that's, like, 2 sentences, you know? And so, like, your brother's dead, he's really rich, or something like that. Sitting back and, like, listening and being like, your brother's dead and he's really rich, I'm like, okay, well, now I know how to react. But then it's him. It's like, your brother dead. He's like, yeah. He's like really rich, and he's like, ah, man, my brother, you know. So it's like,
oh yeah, and then he's like, but he pushes them on it so far. He's like, oh, you're a scammer. What are you talking about? Millions of dollars. This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
he's like, oh, we got all the. He made them prove like to a T that it was true, and then he started acting sad, which is so funny too.
Yeah, and I think that is like a testament to at least one defendable reason of enjoying this film. You know, there's a lot of that we were speaking earlier, like novelty and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't like no, I wouldn't even say regret, but like I don't find myself disagreeing with my enjoyment of the film, because it opens up this very emotion filled and reactive type reaction to things. And if at the end of the day, even if the comedy is maybe a little bit morally detestable, or even repetitive of other films, at the very least it's a genuine and emotional display of a very chaotic situation, and in that sense that is very enjoyable to watch, and that is very funny to watch, and that is the groundwork that builds into a good comedy, and I thought it was a good comedy.
Yeah, well, and you know, I would totally understand someone being like totally like detested by this movie, because it has a lot of these kind of really sexist things, like really. But like looking at it through like the lens of, you know, their culture, and the way that it addresses some of these like cultural differences, and like how it's almost like we detest these certain things, but it puts a lens on like our culture, like America and Britain and all that, or like, and it's like, hey, you guys aren't so good either, you know. And it's, I think in that way it's actually just, it's like almost a just movie.
Yeah.
So while I totally understand being detested by it, it's almost like the movie's definitely defendable.
And I think that it's reiterated in the fact that, what does it mean to be good, you know? Like the way that Osuofia, or he is very like sexist, but he's very openly sexist, you know, maybe not in the lens of when to the filmmaker or anything like that, but to us as an audience, you know.
Yeah.
But juxtapose that with the very underhanded techniques of being bad of the lawyer and the wife, you know, the fiance of his brother, you know. So like, maybe in a very pretentious way, the film could be saying that, what is the difference between openly detestable moral opinions, and then like underhanded detestable moral opinions? Like, you know, maybe we haven't really, or some people haven't really learned how to be more moral, but they've just learned how to hide it better, you know?
Yeah, well, and there's definitely a lot to be said about, you know, the sexism that continues in our society too.
Yeah.
So it's also, you know, it's very like comparable. It's like not like it's not like we're very good at addressing these issues right
Yeah.
now either.
Yeah. I mean, it's this whole month and we don't even have a female film.
What?
maybe,
don't?
Maybe I just need to. Well, in this month, you know, March.
In this month, I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah.
Rip. That sucks.
Hey,
Hey, I did the favorite last time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So-
It's my fault, baby. I'm
It's all your
sexist, bro.
fault, dude.
Ah.
I don't know. No, but yeah. So I did enjoy this movie.
I think so too. And the more I talk about it, the more I actually really want to watch the second one.
Yeah.
Like, I need to know how this ends, man. Like,
I would be down to watch it for sure.
like all the promises that he gave, like the whole scene where he's like, your house, bro, your father's building. Oh man, he gave up on it halfway, man. He's pretty poor. When I come back, it's gonna be built. It's gonna be built, man. And I'm like, okay, well, is it? I need to know. Like, does he get this money? Does he come back as like a hero and he raises this whole town with all their expectations? Does he get the money, but he stays and he's like, all these people, you know? Or like, does he not get the money? Does he get caught up? You know, these are big questions that I need answered, man.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to watch it. I think it would be hilarious. And I think they have like 3 of them, so.
Oh, 3. I mean, if they're all an hour and a half, maybe, but like 3, okay.
Well, that's another good thing about this movie. The pacing, great.
Immaculate.
An hour and 20 minutes?
Yes.
Oh, hell
Yes.
yeah. Hell yeah. Especially for like us. Normally the movies we pick, I think the average is like 3.5 or 2.5 hours.
Yeah, 2.5, I would say, yeah.
So like, and then there's also Sit to Tango, which is like
Excuse it.
kind of PTSD in a movie. But yeah, this was a cool, easy, refreshing kind of
I loved it. I loved your pick.
take. I'm glad I picked it. I almost didn't pick it, so I'm glad. Shout out to Tommy for pushing me back on it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would have preferred any like Nollywood film, but this one was a good one.
I think this one was very well made, and it's like near the top of every Nollywood movie list I've seen. Like I've seen like 4, but you know, there's not too much on the internet actually in English. Like there's not a whole lot of coverage going on in this film scene. So I'm kind of excited to be talking about it.
I'm interested in it because I feel like understanding other cultures is like my favorite thing to do. And really, if it was like a job to just understand other cultures, that would be my fucking job, man. I would love to do that. But understanding it in film is, you know, the second best thing to do. And, you know, I do kind of spiral around the film elevated countries, and so it was really nice that I was being pushed or like being advocated to watch something that doesn't get as much like media coverage or like critical acclaim or anything like that, you know.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm just saying like Korea is like great and like France and stuff like that, but it's a different experience watching this type of film.
I think that's something I want to get better at as a film watcher, as a film like critic, like personal
film
critic,
discussion, film discussers.
Someone who loves film is like just experiencing film from as many different countries and as many different nations as I can, because you can put a lot of the world together and like what cultures are about and the ideas behind them. If you watch all of their films, it's like a huge part of their culture. So film in that way is such a good way of understanding the world, and that is like truly what I'm after, even more than film.
Yeah, no, I totally understand and relate to that. Like, you know, we don't have thousands of dollars to go traveling to these different countries to understand what it's like to live there, and so, you know, film is a great low cost way to at least attempt to do that.
Yeah, it's like it's not the same, but it's like, you know, it's a little bit.
It's a bit, yeah. It's a taste, and you know, it's making me want some more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's like my closing thoughts, I think.
Yeah, I think there's not too much more to talk about this film. I mean, it didn't rock any of our moral grounds, but it was just really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I think that's to take from it, and it's exciting to see film from an area that we haven't seen before.
And honestly, if there's anything I would not regret doing, it would be being the provider of these niche discussions of films that are from small cultural places. All right, but yeah, I guess my ending thoughts. I guess we'll go back to that. Yeah, there is a sense of excelling that you really only need to be respectable, especially as a low budget film. There's things that you can forgive. Sound mixing, mic quality, even lighting, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a good vision and a good director that understands what you're going for, and how to approach those things, then I think that you can provide a product that obviously isn't acclaimed. It isn't like
well, this one is acclaimed.
Really? Okay.
I mean,
it isn't like widespreadly
it's not
known.
internationally acclaimed.
Yeah. Sure. But I think that's something I want to learn from this film, is to take that inspiration and be like, okay, well, I don't need to be perfect on everything. I just need to understand my limitations and try my best to understand what the story is going for and what it can excel in. And also, I think that casting is just so important. And the more I watch films, the more I have such a respect for the collaboration of everything. There's definitely a type of idolization that one gets as they first enter into the film critique or industry, or like obsession or whatever, that gets put on the director. But I think the more we discuss things and the more we explore these types of films that we watch and pick, the more it is really a group effort, and the tip top of films are really just a lucky, I wouldn't say lucky, it is definitely skill, but it depends on a lot of people's skills, and the way that they come together, and the expectation one has on yourself if you're like a young filmmaker, to try and corral all this perfection together. But really, if you just try to do your best and try to be as perfect as you can, you can have sound be a little weird, framing be a little weird, and you still can pump out like a respectable product.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect way to like kind of conclude this kind of episode.
Yeah.
On that note, I do want to say though, every week that we do this, I feel more and more excited to do the next episode, because I don't know, not even for people, but like it's nice to continue this kind of conversation we're having about film, and I feel like I'm learning so much about like aspects of film that things that I've thought emotionally but never really put into words, like put into grammar.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like we're evolving with our watching of films, and even if we watch these films, if we watch one film for every single episode that we do, I feel like our change would make it exciting and the same. And I hope everyone feels that way too, Yeah. Like, it's just interesting to watch. I mean, yeah, I hope you feel that way as well, but it's definitely interesting to be the person that changes and evolves with each episode, and to also have someone with you that also changes and evolves, and to have that discussion. So
yeah, I mean, I get more out of each movie, obviously, if I talk about it for an hour.
Especially. And each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you liked that totally fake, made-up emotional segment, give us a like.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I totally forgot I was supposed to come up with the next movie, so I guess I'm going to edge you guys and be like, All right, I guess you're gonna have to tune in for the season finale because I have a very special pick for you.
Yeah, it's
otherwise known as I
surprise.
haven't chosen it.
I mean, yeah. In case you guys didn't know, we're shooting this a little early.
Yeah.
So this is like the second episode this week, and we're kind of tired.
Yeah. I mean, spring break, guys. So enjoy your spring break if you have the same spring break as us. And Joey's gonna be gone for next week, so I'm gonna be all alone and with my thoughts. And hopefully, I won't choose the most depressing movie to watch next week.
Oh my gosh! All right, it sounds like you're gonna pick the most depressing movie to watch next week.
Well,
Subscribe, like, blah blah blah.
leave us a comment.
Oh yeah.
If you watch this movie,
We'll
because that would
respond,
be
I swear.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.